Laughter of the Alien Queen. The Alien Queen sat on her dark throne, high above the shining floors of her grand hall. Her crown of steel curved like claws, and her eyes glowed with a cold, alien fire. Around her, tall guards in black armor stood in silence waiting for her command. The galaxy feared her name, for she had crushed countless worlds and her empire stretched across the stars. She laughed, a sharp and cruel sound, echoing through the chamber. Her generals bowed, but they smiled with her, because when the queen laughed, it meant another world had fallen. She raised her long hand and waved away a messenger drone. Its report was simple. Humans had been spotted. They were speaking of legends. Old stories of warriors who fought with impossible courage. Legends, the queen said with a sneer. Little tales told by frightened children. Nothing more. Humans are weak, soft, and broken. They cling to myths because they cannot face truth. My empire will erase them, and no one will remember. They're so-called heroes. The guards thumped their weapons in agreement. For them, the queen's words were law. They had seen her fleets burn planets. They had seen her armies crush whole civilizations. Why should humans be different? Yet far away, whispers were rising among the humans. On broken colonies near the edge of the galaxy, survivors spoke in low voices. They remembered Earth's ancient warriors. They spoke of Spartans who fought to the last breath, of samurai who lived by honor, of freedom fighters who stood against empires. The queen laughed at these stories, but the humans carried them in their hearts. Back in her palace, the queen watched holograms of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, crowded cities. She pointed at the image with a smile that was colder than ice. "Destroy it," she said. "Erase their home. Their legends will burn with their world." Her generals bowed. They would obey. Soon fleets would cross the stars toward Earth, but none of them knew what waited. The humans were afraid, yes, but fear was not the end. Fear was fuel. In secret, stations human commanders gathered, in dark rooms old war records were read again. The queen thought legends were nothing but shadows, but the humans believed otherwise. They believed legends were more than history. They were lessons. They were warnings. They were hope. One human soldier, Captain Elias, stood in the middle of a war council. His uniform was old and worn. His voice was calm but strong. "The queen thinks we are broken. She thinks we are weak. But we carry every story of those who came before us. We will show her that legends are not just tales. They are alive in us." The council agreed. They would not surrender. They would not let Earth fall. A secret plan was already moving forward. A plan the queen did not know about. For years, humans had built something hidden in the shadows of space. Something powerful, something dangerous. It was not ready. But there was no choice now. While humans prepared in silence, the queen celebrated. She threw feasts in her palace. She let her generals boast of victories. She even told her people that humans would be wiped away in days. Her laughter filled the empire. It was cruel and endless. She believed there was no power in the galaxy that could stand against her. But in the dark of space, human ships gathered. Pilots checked their weapons. Engineers whispered prayers. Soldiers remembered the stories their parents told them, a mother's voice saying, "Never give up," a teacher's voice saying, "Courage is stronger than fear." These were not just words, they were seeds of fire. The alien queen's laughter shook the stars, but the humans were ready to answer, not with laughter but with steel, not with fear but with fire. The queen had no idea. Her empire had no idea. For when the humans came, they would come not as broken victims, but as warriors carrying every legend with them, and legends once awakened could not be silenced. The queen's throne room echoed with her cruel voice. She whispered to herself, "Humans are nothing." But in the darkness of the galaxy, something was moving, something that would prove her wrong. The humans were waiting, watching, preparing, and soon the queen would learn. Legends do not die, legends rise again. And when they rise, even empires fall. First contact. The first human outpost died in silence. No warning, no distress call, just broken metal drifting in the void. The alien queen's fleet had moved like shadows, swift and merciless. They erased the colony and left nothing but ashes in the stars. News traveled slow through space, but when it reached Earth, it struck like a hammer. Families wept, commanders argued, and politicians trembled. Some wanted to surrender before the war even began. They said, "We cannot fight her. Her empire is too strong." But not everyone agreed. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, human soldiers whispered, their voices low, their eyes burning. They remembered what the Queen did not. They remembered legends. Captain Elias stood in the command deck of the starship Resolute, his face lit by the glow of battle maps. Around him his crew waited, some young and afraid, others scarred by old wars. "The Queen thinks we will bow," Elias said, his voice steady. "But we will not bow, we will not beg. If she wants our world, she will bleed for it," the crew answered with silence. Not weak silence, but heavy, strong silence, the kind before a storm. Far away in the void near a burned colony, a lone human patrol ship drifted. Its sensors picked up movement. Shadows in the dark, dozens of alien warships sliding from hyperspace, their hulls sharp like blades, their engines glowing with cruel fire. "Contact," the patrol officer whispered. His heart pounded, his hands shook. He had never seen such a fleet. The Queen had sent more ships than the humans even had. It was not war, it was slaughter. But before he could speak again, a voice came through the comms. "Stay alive, stay silent, watch them. Learn them, do not die yet." It was Elias guiding his people, teaching them patience. The alien ships spread out, surrounding the patrol's hiding place. For a moment, it seemed death had already arrived. But the humans cut power, drifted, cold in the void, and vanished into darkness. The aliens passed them by. Their sensors searched, but they found nothing. In her throne room, the Queen watched reports of the patrol. She laughed again. Her empire had crushed empires older and stronger than humans. "These creatures believe they can fight me," she said. "They hide like insects. Let them hide. They will starve in their holes, and when they crawl out, my armies will burn them." But not all was well. Her commanders whispered to each other when she could not hear. They had seen something strange in the humans. Something stubborn. Humans fought even when logic said they should run. Humans survived things that should have killed them. One alien general remembered a battle years ago, when human prisoners had broken free with nothing but stolen tools. They fought with bare hands, they died with defiance. "Strange creatures," he muttered. "Too strange." But when the Queen's eyes turned to him, he bowed low and said nothing. Back on the Resolute, Elias met with his closest soldiers. Among them was Lieutenant Kara. "Young but fierce," she asked. "Why do we fight, Captain? They are stronger, richer, older. Why fight when we will lose?" Elias looked at her. His eyes were hard. "We fight because losing is not the end. Legends are not born in easy victories. They are born when everything is against us. Do you want to be forgotten? Or do you want the galaxy to remember that humans did not kneel?" Kara said nothing, but her hands tightened into fists. She understood. Every soldier in that room understood. They would not be the last, they would be the first blow, the first spark. The next day, the humans made their move. The patrol ship that had escaped returned, carrying stolen data. Inside were maps of the Queen's invasion routes, her fleets, her targets, her timelines. The Queen thought she had silenced the outpost, but the humans had learned from its ashes. The HFY Council gathered. The plan was simple. Strike not to win, but to remind the galaxy who humans were. They would hit the Queen where she thought she was safe. They would show her that legends walked again. As the Resolute prepared to jump into enemy space, Kara stood on the deck. She whispered to herself the words she had learned as a child. Never give up. They were small words, but they carried the weight of Earth. The jump engines roared. The ship vanished into hyperspace. The humans were coming, and somewhere across the stars in her shining palace, the alien Queen smiled. She believed this war was already over. She believed humans were weak. She believed her empire eternal, but her belief would soon shatter. for the first blow was about to fall. The hidden weapon. The Resolute slipped through the dark edge of space, its lights dimmed, its engines burning quiet. The humans had stolen something more precious than gold. They had stolen knowledge, and knowledge was the sharpest blade. Captain. Elias stood in the war room. The stolen data glowed across the holotable, routes, codes, and invasion maps. But among all this, one file burned brighter than the rest. A secret the Queen thought hidden. It spoke of a weapon, not hers, not alien, but human. A weapon built in shadows, tested only in silence. It had been buried by Earth's leaders, too dangerous, too unstable. But now, in the face of the Queen, it was the only chance. The crew looked at the file with fear. Some whispered that it was myth. Others said it was cursed. Lieutenant Kara leaned closer. "Is it real?" she asked, her voice low, almost a whisper. Elias did not answer, not at first. He touched the holotable, and the image of a massive structure appeared. It floated above, a broken moon hidden in the wreckage of an old battlefield. Project Tempest. Elias finally said, "It is real. It was never finished, but it was real." The crew exchanged glances. They all knew the stories. The weapon was said to tear apart fleets with storms of energy. Some said it could split planets. Some said it killed its own creators. The Queen had laughed at legends, but here was one. Legend she did not know. Suspense thickened. The question was simple. Should they risk it? Should they touch the fire that once burned its makers? Kara's eyes hardened. If it can hurt her, we use it. But others disagreed. One officer said, "What if it kills us before it kills her? What if it destroys Earth itself?" The debate raged, voices rising, but Elias ended it with steel in his tone. "If we do nothing, Earth burns. If we take this risk, maybe Earth lives. I choose to risk." Silence followed. Heavy, sharp, everyone understood. This was no longer a war of survival. This was a war of legends. The Resolute turned its path toward the dead moon. The journey was long, shadows thick around them. Enemy patrols moved like wolves in the dark. Twice the humans nearly died. Twice they slipped away unseen. Every moment the Queen's fleets grew closer to Earth. Every moment the weapon waited. At last they reached the battlefield. A graveyard of ships, broken metal spinning forever in silence. And there, hidden among wreckage, the structure appeared. Vast towers reaching from the moon's surface, silent as a tomb. The crew stared in awe. Project Tempest, sleeping but not dead. They landed inside one of the shattered bays, dust-covered. The hall's machines, half alive, whispered with broken sparks. The soldiers moved through it like explorers in ruins of gods. Every step echoed with fear and hope. In the heart of the station they found it, a chamber the size of a city. In its center, a core pulsed faintly, a storm trapped in glass. Lightning crawled across it, hungry, alive, waiting. Kara stepped forward, her hand shaking. "It's beautiful," she whispered. But Elias did not smile. He saw what it truly was. Power. Too much power. The engineers began their work. They pulled up codes from the stolen data. They linked systems. They breathed life back into the beast. Every screen flickered. Every wire hissed. The core began to wake. But with awakening came danger. The station's old defenses stirred. Automated turrets opened red eyes. Drones long forgotten came alive. The humans fought in the corridors, blaster fire flashing in the dark. Legends were not made easy. In the chaos, the Queen's spies caught whispers of activity. A report reached her throne. "Humans have touched the ruins. They may awaken something." The Queen laughed, sharp and cruel. "Let them. If they believe in toys from their past, let them burn themselves. Their myths are fire, and they will be consumed." Yet deep inside, her generals looked uneasy. They had seen humans survive before. They had seen humans turn scraps into weapons. They had seen humans bleed, but never bow back on the moon. Elias stood before the awakening core. Its light filled the chamber. The storm inside it screamed against the glass, ready to break free. Kara asked, Can we control it? Elias answered, We don't control storms. We ride them. The decision was made. Project Tempest would rise again, even if it killed them. Even if it tore them apart, they would unleash it. As the final codes locked into place, the core roared. Lightning burst across the chamber, shaking the very moon. Screens went black, engines howled, and the soldiers held their breath. Far across the stars, the Queen paused. For the first time, her laughter stopped. She felt it, a ripple, a storm in the void. Something old had awakened, something that did not belong to her. Her smile faded, not gone, but cracked. For the first time, doubt touched her throne, and in the silence before the storm, humans whispered the words their ancestors once spoke. Legends rise again, clash in the void. The storm woke. Project Tempest screamed with light. Its core sent ripples through the dead moon. Lightning clawed across the ruins. Machines long silent trembled under its roar. On the Resolute, alarms flashed, engineers fought to steady the power, sparks flew, voices shouted. But Captain Elias stood tall, his eyes fixed on the holomap. Enemy fleets were closing. Hundreds of alien warships moved like a tide. They had found the humans. Ready the weapon, Elias ordered. His voice calm, but his chest heavy with the weight of history. The crew obeyed, hands trembling but steady. They knew they were about to light a fire the galaxy had never seen. Far away in her palace, the alien queen smiled again. Reports had reached her. The humans dare to rise. They dare to awaken their myths. She raised her hand, sharp nails catching the light. Then let us crush them in the open, let their first battle be their last. Her fleets spread like black wings across the stars. The humans saw them first as shadows, then as fire. Ships larger than cities, weapons glowing, voices chanting in alien tongues. Kara stood on the deck, her throat dry. She whispered, There are too many. Elias did not look at her. His gaze locked forward. There are always too many. That is why legends matter. The first strike came without mercy. Alien beams of energy cut across space. 3 human ships burned in seconds, exploding into shards of flame. The fleet shuddered. Voices cried out. But no one fled. Not one ship. Turned away. Hold, Elias commanded. Wait. His crew stared, hearts pounding, as more fire rained upon them. As hulls screamed and shields shattered, Elias waited. His hand rested on the final key, the trigger of the storm. The aliens laughed across the comms. Mocking voices filled with cruel joy. You are nothing. You are weak. You will die as dust. But then Elias gave the order, a single word, sharp as a blade. Now, the moon cracked with thunder. The core of Project Tempest unleashed. A storm of light erupted across the void, not fire, not beams, but lightning itself, a living ocean of energy. It tore into the alien fleet, ripping ships apart like paper. Dozens of alien warships died in seconds. Their screams filled the comms. Their shadows burned away. For the first time in centuries, the Queen's armada fled. Kara gasped, her eyes wide. It works, she whispered. But Elias did not celebrate. He knew storms did not obey. The weapon roared beyond control. Arcs of power lashed near human ships. Shields flared. Metal groaned. Steady, he commanded. Ride it. Do not fight it. The engineers bent over controls, sweat dripping. Every second was life or death. One mistake and the storm would consume them all. The alien fleet recovered fast. Commanders screamed orders. Ships pulled back, forming new lines. They hurled wave after wave of fire, trying to push through the storm. But Project Tempest struck again. Lightning carved through their formations. Whole wings vanished in blinding light, and yet the Queen did not tremble. In her throne, she leaned forward, eyes narrowing. So, the legends are true, she whispered. Her laughter softened, not gone but cold. Then I will break their legends myself. She sent more fleets. She called upon her dreadnoughts, ancient ships with armor thicker than cities. They moved into the storm, engines blazing, weapons roared, cutting paths through chaos. The battle turned brutal. Humans screamed as ships fell. Tempest struck but wavered. The core inside the moon began to crack. Warning alarms filled every human ear. "It will break," the engineers cried. "If it breaks, it takes us with it." Elias closed his eyes for a breath. He saw the faces of the fallen. He remembered every story told on Earth, and he whispered, "Then let it break on them, not on us." With one final push, they directed the storm. The core screamed louder than suns. A wave of energy burst outward, so vast it blinded the stars. The dreadnoughts shattered. The alien lines ripped open. Silence followed for a breath. Only silence. Then cheers erupted across the human fleet. They had done it. They had broken the Queen's strongest ships, but Elias did not cheer. He looked at the dying core, cracks spreading like veins of fire. It was collapsing. It would soon destroy itself. Kara turned to him, fear in her eyes. "Captain, what now?" Elias answered with steel. "Now we fight as humans. Now we finish what legends began." In her throne, the Queen rose for the first time. Her smile was gone. Her empire had been wounded, not by gods, not by monsters, but by humans, creatures she had called weak. Her voice shook with fury. "If they want to be legends, then I will bury them as legends. They will not live long enough to enjoy their victory." The galaxy trembled. The storm had begun, and from this clash in the void, only one truth burned clear. Humans had drawn blood. The Queen would never forget it, and the war of legends had only just begun. Legends come alive. The storm of Project Tempest faded into silence. The dead moon cracked and groaned, its core burning out, its light dimmed, leaving behind wreckage and shadows. The humans had struck a mighty blow, but their victory was not complete. The Queen's empire was far from broken. Her fleet still filled the void, endless and merciless. Inside the Resolute, smoke filled the decks. Sparks rained from shattered panels. Soldiers lay wounded. Engineers fought to keep the engines alive. The weapon had worked, yes, but it had nearly destroyed them too. Captain Elias walked among his crew, his boots heavy, his eyes sharper than ever. He saw fear on their faces, and he saw something else too. Fire. "You saw it," he told them, his voice strong. "You saw them bleed. The Queen is not untouchable. She can be hurt. She can be beaten, but..." The celebration was short. Enemy ships began to regroup. Alien reinforcements poured in. The Queen herself sent commands, her voice like a blade across the comms. "Crush them. Break their bones. Scatter their ashes into the stars." The humans braced for another wave, but Elias had a different plan. The storm had opened a hole in the alien lines. A chance, small and narrow, but real. He ordered the fleet forward, straight into the heart of enemy territory. It was madness. The aliens had more ships, more firepower, more everything. But humans carried something else. Legends. As the fleet pushed through, battles turned close and brutal. Human marines boarded alien cruisers, fighting in narrow corridors filled with smoke and fire. Blades clashed, rifles roared, screams echoed. Lieutenant Kara led one of the boarding squads. Her eyes burned as she fought. She remembered the words of Captain Elias. "Legends are born when everything is against us." She moved like a storm, striking down. Alien warriors twice her size. Her squad followed with fury. They were not trained to fight like machines. They fought like people who refused to kneel. Each strike carried history. Each step carried defiance. On one alien ship, surrounded and outnumbered, Kara's squad made their last stand. The aliens laughed, calling them fragile, calling them broken. But then one soldier raised his voice, his words simple, yet heavy as mountains. "Remember Thermopylae?" The aliens did not know the name, but the humans did. They remembered Spartans who stood against an empire. They remembered courage greater than numbers, and with that memory they fought harder. Every swing of the blade, every blast of the rifle was legend reborn. Across the battlefield, other squads fought with the same fire. A pilot whispered a prayer to ancient samurai before diving into enemy fire. A medic carried the wounded while whispering, "No one left behind," like soldiers of old wars everywhere. Legends came alive, not in books, but in blood and fire. In her palace, the Queen watched through streams of data. She saw humans fighting inside her own ships. She saw them die but refused to bow. Her generals shifted uneasily. One dared to speak. They fight like no enemy we have faced. They rise again when they should fall. The Queen's face tightened, but her pride would not break. They are only delaying the end, nothing more. Yet her laugh was gone. Her voice no longer carried certainty. Back aboard the Resolute, Elias received reports. Dozens of human ships lost, thousands dead. But still, his soldiers pushed forward. They were carving legends with every breath. He stood at the hollow table, watching the red swarm of alien icons, his jaw hard. "We are not stories," he whispered. "We are the writers of stories." Then came the moment of terror. The Queen unleashed a dread weapon, a warship larger than any city. Its cannons burned brighter than suns. Its engines shook the void. It cut through human ships like knives through paper. Fear spread fast. For the first time, even Kara faltered. "We cannot beat that," she whispered. Elias heard her voice through the comms, and his reply was thunder. "We do not need to beat it, we need to remind it who we are." He ordered a direct strike, a suicide run into the heart of the beast. 3 ships volunteered, their captains, did not hesitate. They charged through enemy fire, their hulls breaking, their decks burning, their crews shouting with voices that echoed across time. The dread ship opened fire. 2 of the human ships shattered into flame, but the last one, broken and burning, reached its target. With its final breath, it rammed straight into the alien monster's heart. The explosion shook the void. The dread ship staggered, its armor cracking, its cannons silent. The humans cheered, even as tears filled their eyes, for legends are always written in sacrifice. The Queen rose from her throne, her claws dug into her armrest. Her fury shook the chamber. "Enough!" she roared. "I will show them the meaning of despair." But even as her voice carried rage, doubt coiled in her chest. She had laughed at human legends. Now she saw them, alive, real, unbroken. The humans had no empire, no great fleets, but they had something she could not command. They had belief, they had fire, and in that fire legends had awakened. Legends that would not bow, legends that would not break. The Queen did not laugh anymore. The Queen falls. The galaxy burned. Her fleets, once endless, now drifted in shattered silence. Wreckage spun through the void, flames of dead ships still glowing against the stars. Project Tempest was gone. The humans had lost thousands, but they had broken the spine of the Queen's Armada. In her throne room, the alien Queen paced, her claws tapped against the cold floor. Her generals bowed low, but she saw fear in their eyes. Fear of her, yes, but fear of humans more. They had watched humans fight with madness, with fury, with something no empire could command. "Enough," she hissed. "They are insects, and I am the storm. I will crush them with my own hand." Her voice shook the chamber, but deep inside, she felt the weight of doubt, a weight she had never known before. Across the stars, the human fleet crawled forward, bleeding but alive. Captain Elias stood tall on the Resolute, his uniform torn, his face scarred. Around him, soldiers moved with weary steps, but their eyes still burned. "The Queen thinks herself eternal," he told them. "Then we will remind her nothing is eternal, not even her throne." The plan was madness. The humans would not wait for her to strike again. They would go straight for her, straight into the heart of her empire, a strike not of survival but of defiance. The fleet moved through shattered space, past the ruins of alien strongholds, past planets left in chains. At every world, whispers spread, whispers of humans, whispers of warriors who rose when they should have fallen. Chains rattled, eyes lifted. The galaxy was watching. The Queen gathered what remained of her strength, fleets still loyal, armies still countless. Her palace a fortress of steel and fire. She stood on her balcony, her voice carrying across her empire. "Do not fear the humans, their legends are lies, their blood will stain my throne." Her soldiers cheered, but the cheer was hollow. Their voices shook, for they had seen the truth. Legends were not lies. Legends were alive. The humans came like knives through the dark, their fleet small compared to hers. But every ship burned with purpose. Every soldier carried the weight of history. Lieutenant Kara stood beside Elias, her armor scorched, her eyes bright. "We may not return," she said. He nodded. "Then let us not return as shadows, but as fire." The battle for the Queen's world began. Her fleets rose from the planet like swarms. Her cannons roared. The void shook with fire. Ships shattered. Metal burned. Screams filled the comms, but still the humans pushed forward. One ship, then another, breaking open the Queen's defenses. The Resolute led the charge, its hull torn, engines screaming. Elias stood on the deck, his voice sharp. "Boarding teams, prepare. We take the fight to her." Dropships cut through fire, carrying Marines into the heart of the Queen's fortress. They crashed through steel gates, stormed across burning halls. Alien warriors fought with fury, but humans fought with more. They fought not for empire, not for power, but for Earth, for history. For every legend that breathed through them, Kara's squad led the way. They carved through corridors, blades clashing, rifles blazing. She moved like the old warriors she carried in memory, like a Spartan at the hot gates, like a samurai in the last charge. Each strike was history alive. At last the humans reached the throne room. Its doors towered like mountains. The Queen sat on her throne, her crown shining, her laughter sharp once more. "So the insects crawl to me," she said, her voice cold, her claws curled. "Do you believe your little stories will save you?" Elias stepped forward. His armor cracked, his hands bloody. "Stories do not save us," he said. "We save ourselves. Stories remind us who we are." The Queen rose, her height towering, her presence crushing. She moved like a storm of blades. Her guards rushed forward, towering monsters in black steel. The humans charged to meet them. The throne room became fire. Kara fought hand to hand, her blade sparking against alien steel. Her lungs burned, her arms ached. But she remembered the words she carried. Never give up. She drove her blade through the enemy's chest, roaring like the legends of old. Elias faced the Queen herself. Her claws slashed, her voice screamed. "You are weak," she hissed. "You are nothing." Elias blocked, staggered, struck again. His body screamed in pain, but his spirit did not break. The Queen struck him down to one knee, her claw raised for the final blow. But Elias smiled, blood on his lips. "Nothing," he whispered. "Nothing would have fought you this far." Before the Queen could strike, Kara leapt forward, her blade flashing. She drove it into the Queen's side. The throne room shook with her scream. The Queen staggered, eyes wide with shock. She looked at the humans before her, these fragile creatures she had mocked, and for the first time, she felt fear. Her crown slipped from her head, rolling across the floor. Her throne cracked under her weight. She gasped. "Impossible! Humans cannot—" But Elias rose again, his voice iron. "Humans do not bow. We rise." Together, the humans struck, and the alien Queen fell. Her empire shook with her fall. Her laughter was gone forever. Silence filled the throne room. Only the sound of human breath remained. Kara dropped her blade, tears burning her eyes. "It's over," she whispered. Elias looked down at the fallen Queen, his voice heavy. "No, it has only begun, because when legends rise, they do not fade. They burn brighter with every sacrifice, and now the galaxy would carry this legend, the day humans shattered an empire. Aftermath, human victory." The Queen was dead. Her crown lay broken on the floor, her throne split in half. Her body, once a symbol of fear, was nothing more than silence. The humans stood over her fallen form, bloodied, scarred, yet unbroken. For a long moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause. No fleets moved, no cannons roared. It was as if the stars themselves waited to see what came next. Captain Elias stood tall, though his body trembled with wounds. He looked at his soldiers, at Kara, at the survivors who had fought through fire and steel. "It is done," he said, his voice quiet, heavy. But it is not the end. It is the beginning. Beyond the throne room, across the stars, the Queen's empire trembled, her fleets faltered, commanders hesitated, soldiers once certain of her power now looked at each other with doubt. They had seen her fall. They had felt her silence. The unshakable had been shaken. The eternal had ended. On worlds enslaved for generations, chains began to loosen. Some alien slaves raised their heads for the first time, whispering the words carried through the void. The humans have killed the Queen. Those whispers became shouts. Those shouts became fire. Rebellions erupted like storms, her empire shattering from within. The humans had not only fought for Earth, they had lit a fire for the galaxy. Inside the resolute survivors gathered, wounded, weary, their uniforms torn. They carried their dead wrapped in flags. Kara stood with tears on her face. So many gone, she whispered. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. That is the price of legends, he said, his eyes full of grief and pride. They will never be forgotten. Across the galaxy, voices rose. Stories spread faster than ships. In taverns, in camps, in broken colonies, beings of every kind spoke the same words. The humans fought the Queen, and the Queen fell. Some did not believe it at first, but when survivors arrived, carrying proof, carrying scars, the legend became truth, and the legend grew. It grew larger than the battle, larger than the war. Humans were no longer seen as weak, no longer seen as fragile. They were seen as fire, fire that could not be put out. The Queen had laughed at human legends. She had called them stories of children. But now, her empire whispered those legends as truth. They whispered of Spartans who fought to the last, of samurai who lived with honor, of rebels who died free, and they added new names. Elias, Kara, the crews of the ships that never returned. Their names became part of the same fire. In her broken palace, the humans raised their flag, not as conquerors, but as survivors. The galaxy looked, and for the first time, they believed in something greater than fear. They believed in defiance. Elias stood before his people, his voice steady despite the sorrow within him. We did not win because we were stronger. We did not win because we were greater. We won because we refused to kneel. And that is what will live not only in us but in the galaxy. Kara stepped beside him, raising her blade. The Queen laughed at our legends, she said, her voice fierce. But now we are legends, and no empire can erase us. The soldiers roared, not with joy, but with strength. Their voices carried through the halls, carried through the broken skies, carried across the void itself. And the galaxy listened. The humans returned to Earth, scarred but victorious. Crowds filled the cities. Children watched them with wide eyes. Elders wept. Families embraced their warriors, but all knew the truth. This was not just a victory for Earth. This was a victory for humanity's spirit. Monuments rose for the fallen. Stories were told in schools, names carved into stone in memory. The Queen had wanted to erase their history. Instead, she had given them new history, brighter and louder than any before. And so the story spread, carried on ships, on voices, on stars. The story of the Queen who laughed at human legends and the humans who shattered her empire. For legends do not die, legends rise again, and now humanity itself was legend. The galaxy would never forget.